Um, I received a postcard. Something about court approved legal notice T-Mobile data breach settlement. I don't know what this means. I don't know if this is trickery and trying to preclude me from ever benefiting from something I'm deserving of, or some way that they don't have to actually tell the truth to the public. I don't know if this is an inroads to some kind of benefit, and I have nobody to console me. It doesn't even offer free legal counsel, letting people know one way or the other. I mean, I grew up here. I didn't move here from some other country. And the education system and the adult social services is so horrifically non existent that I don't even have a person to ask or counsel me on these, what seems like something so simple as a postcard with some kind of, I don't have like adult leaders. My father's no help. Like Tiafrio 1975, he's an insult to my intelligence. And who else is there? I mean, they have not prepped or prepared the children. So now you receive a phone call like this. Where is my ladder to climb? Where is my hand to hold? Simple, simple requests from humanity, knowing that they have some kind of social benefit and some kind of social network. But yet they've precluded me from being involved for I don't know what reason. Is it because there's so many revolutions happening at the same time? It's turned distasteful and nobody knows what to do in this new arrangement. I'm just curious. These are frightening alternatives. But I'm here, having grown up here, having been brought to a glen, thinking that I would have some kind of foundational social inroads. That failed miserably. And on whose charge, I don't know. But I'm still here in New York, still in Long Island, still now I'm in some city limits, but I'm still on Long Island, still part of New York, so they claim. And yet I don't even know where a representative is that cares enough to even give me the truth about what this is and what this means and who would have wanted to steal my data, for what purpose, what do they do with it, how could this harm me and the children in the future, what are they preparing for, what are the allowances, who do I ask questions of, how do I even protect myself? None of this has been explained. I mean, when does Consumer Protection Agency kick in? I'm just curious. Because something as simple as a postcard, and here's the other part of it. It arrives, here's the permit number for the US Post in one of their, I mean, it looks like a scam to me in the sense of it could have been a very useful tool, except it says the deadline to file a claim form is January 23rd, 2023. But then as I scan lower, it says if you must exclude yourself by December 8th, 2022. That date already passed. It's January 18th, 2023. I just got this in the mail today. And then it says scheduled hearing in this case is January 20th. That's 2 days from now. A hearing on what? In what court? About what? How might this affect my life and my children's lives? And why is there not one human, even though they're participating in this level of legality? Why is there not a single human to call on this? It's now everything's on this imaginary internet and some kind of self-service, but there's no real information. It's star 1978, star 8378. Here's the dates. I don't know. It looks blurry. There's other stuff going on today too. This is a T-Mobile data breach. I have no idea what that means. So today they're talking about this George Santos. They have a lot of elaborate things coming out, and I'm like, now is that the same kind of stuff? Like, how did Obama get into the White House? Like, who elected him? Because they've got this Richie Torres going after Santos about untruthful something else. They've got some citizens thing of NY03 and the concerned citizens. Right. And, like, again, I see that there's some citizens movement in the most tasteful arrangement, but I don't know why they're giving the voice and the microphone to the revolutionaries, and why the lead was not taken by the NY03. I mean, like, if Archangel Michael, I know what he looks like to me in Mikey NY03. It was very pronounced at he's a match of mine. And if loyalty comes into play, I know where my loyalty lies in one brother in the field that actually showed up and held my hand. So, not real clear what all this Santos mumbo jumbo is. They say that Santos is from Brazil. They've got some revolution going on now in Peru. They're making light of this morning, or not making light of it, but they're making an enlightened mention of it. Not really clear though what the root cause is or what's been going on for the last century down in these Latin American countries. Again, the words don't really get north for me anyhow. And it's not on the TV. I have no way. And even if it's on the TV now, I'm watching for words, but for internal security issues. But I have no idea what's pushing in from outside. Like foreign bound or like inner bound. So I'm watching that this morning as well. I'll go pull that up on I guess is it a teleprompter? I mean, they call it a television. I just don't know whose vision this is to have this much distasteful revolutions and then some form of infiltration or insurgence into the upper quadrant. Why can't the lower quadrant handle their own stuff and keep it out of the upper quadrant? I mean, if we're talking hemisphere security and like what happens below the equator or above the equator, where is the safety team on this? Now, also, my son goes to a school at the moment that doesn't have a flag flying. I don't know why. I have one at home for him. Just because I don't really know what's going on and why the school is shrouded. I don't know if that's to protect the children from within while the adults are trying to handle whatever is going on, for their safety so they don't lose their status. I'm not sure. But while my son is in this building during the day, um, he came home. He had brought in um, cupcakes, and it was an opportunity for him to learn to thank the women in the office and the principal and then the assistant principal and the nurse and things and the security guard. Um, so he did. He um, he let them know. Now he came home, and it I don't know who, because they did not. It was, I don't know the name of it, but somebody was kind enough to give him a gift. But I can't write a thank you, so I'll just mention it here, in case it gets to that back to them. This is so wonderful. I did not, I mean, again, I will have to sit down with him and really go through this. I was not ever taught any of this level of education, but somebody gifted this to him, wanting him to have, I guess, at least a basic knowledge of this. Somebody inside the school, which I thought was really nice. Um, it's his mini robot. I, I, I will sit with him and try to go through this with him. Again, this is outside of my comfort zone. I don't know this level of science knowledge. I'm more body mechanics. Um, and then like integration with outside. Um, so whoever gifted him this activity, I really appreciate it. So thank you. I'm going to try to go through that. It says discovery, education, and science. I also, because of whatever I have going on here, with low levels of continuous intoxication of chemicals in the environment, allegedly or not, I don't know. I mean, it is affecting my health. It's affecting biochemistry, that I've documented. I've gone to local laboratories to put it on file, my own medical file, through and with my integration of the insurance company, for my private whatever. Um, but memory at times has trouble. Um, so there was something at the beginning of the year. They did not make a big deal out of it, out of the school, about something about open houses. I did not, I realized yesterday I saw a flyer in the folder that was still there from the beginning of the year. I didn't even know. I mean, we missed the window completely. And I have no idea about the city school system. I have no idea about lotteries, but my son has an IEP. And whatever care coordinator was assigned his IEP, they failed him completely, and myself. I mean, I'm having medical troubles inside the city. There is a Department of Education that is fully funded for student care and benefit. Parent needs help. Parent has been alerted that the parent needs help because the parent is not a fully functioning, like, education, lifelong educational participant. I didn't get to doctorate level. I didn't get to, like, I don't even know what level of education you all study under at Got Somewhere in Life and actually has a paycheck and some freedom and some movement. I am like completely different level and classification of human. So I don't know what to do about his middle school. I need help as a parent, but I don't even know who to reach out to for help because I've missed this window, and I haven't even found the steps to climb as a woman, and there's been no ladder offered, and there's been no hand to hold other than a brief period of time where um, I had this representative that I met through Match.com, but then it just, again, just evaporated, just like fell off the face of the earth. And that's just how my life has been. Don't know how to contact him. Contacted him when I was being hurt through advanced level equipment of like energy field equipment. which sent me to the hospital, to which I hit dead ends. And then they want to like medicate me. And I'm like, I don't need medication. What I need is a national security rep. Something, just so Mike knows, it's something along the lines of Havana syndrome that's been reported that they had a 60-minute special on, since it's not like a biochemical attack necessarily, although it could have been from a vehicle with combustible engine fumes of something that they put in front of my person. Um, but it was something that caused some kind of, I don't know if it's an energy occlusion, I don't know if it's a seismic rhythm that my body picked up on, but I was having, it was like, it was at such like a hertz level of like hertz. I don't know if it was picked up by the ear, if it's just sonic. I mean, again, on Thunderbirds, when the bridge was about to be bombed and collapsed, they had this special mechanic I've never seen in this like claymation thing, and they called the science sonic. So I don't know the relevance on that. Okay, here's the Eyewitness News 7 at 6 a.m. this morning about the Santos thing.
He recently acknowledged embellishing his resume, making up details about his work experience and education, including his claim that he attended Baruch College.
Did you graduate from Baruch? Did you graduate from there?
Yeah.
So did I.
I did.
But he did not. And now, in a newly surfaced radio interview, Santos is heard falsely claiming he was also a star volleyball player at Baruch.
Look, I sacrificed both my knees and got very nice knee replacements from HSS playing volleyball.
Critics also accuse Santos of misrepresenting himself as Jewish. A former roommate says Santos often used two names while raising money for his animal rescue nonprofit.
He used Zabrowski for his Friends of Pets United, his GoFundMe, and he would say, "Oh well, you know, the Jews will give more if you're a Jew."
Meanwhile, there's no evidence that nonprofit ever existed. Now, Democratic Congressman Richie Torres of the Bronx is requesting that the Federal Election Commission investigate how Santos financed his campaign. Santos reportedly lent more than $700,000 to the campaign after earning just $55,000 2 years earlier.
Mr. Santos either illegally coordinated with an independent expenditure or he illegally received a campaign contribution.
George Santos has not responded to the complaint sent to the FEC. Meanwhile, there is another rally to remove Santos from office planned for today. This one will be held later this morning at LaGuardia Airport, calling for his passport to be revoked after they deem him a flight risk. Kenny Charlene.
All right, Shantae, thank you for that. We're now learning.
Now, here they're saying House Oversight Committee with the two people, and then it goes into Santos.
Significant. Now, as for the embattled New York freshman Congressman George Santos, well, he's going to sit on the Small Business Committee as well as the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, despite lying extensively about his business record and despite the fact that he is currently facing multiple ethics complaints and continued questions about his campaign finances. Tony?
Yep. We'll be following that one, Nancy. Thank you very much. But we're going to go now to Massachusetts and the story.
Now, they mentioned something as a state of emergency for Peru. When I was living in Bayside, there was at the 209th address, before I moved to Virginia and before Alexander was even conceived. There was a girl from Peru who grew up on Long Island. Only person I've ever met from that country.
Morning, we've got an update on the long-running unrest and protest in the country of Peru, where 50 people thereabouts have been killed during weeks of protests over the Peruvian president's removal and then arrest last month. Christina Ruffini has been following this story. Christina, Peru's a young democracy. Good morning. What's it all about?
Good morning, Tony. Well, it's called an auto golpe, or a self-coup, and detractors of Peru's former president Pedro Castillo call it an illegal power grab by dissolving the country's Congress. But the response to his arrest has been a bit unexpected, with protesters taking to the streets despite the new president's call for calm. After more than 30
Now, this dissolution of Congress, I'm just curious, why is it that I don't have a seat? I don't even know how to obtain a seat to this Congress, to sit on these committees, but yet something like a Santos, who's not even from the North Quadrant, he came up from Brazil. How did he get a seat inside the United States of America Congress when he's the Southern Quadrant? Why does he get priority over someone who was delivered here through natural selection? Just curious. A naturalized process. So, and then there's this, he's going to be on the Science, Technology, and Space Committee. Why? I mean, I'm the one who has past issues and disintegratous, field quantifiers. Why is he from the Southern Quadrant and able to get into Congress, but yet having been born in the North Quadrant, I don't even know how to make a route to there or how to even participate within the same system. I mean, is that an alert of some other state of emergency that is not being spoken of due to whether it's lack of human resources, lack of education? I'm not quite sure. Could be a combination of both.
days of violent and sometimes deadly clashes, Peru is under a state of emergency. Demonstrators have blocked roadways and shut down runways, with protesters hurling rocks and fury at security personnel, who push back with brutal and sometimes deadly force. The protest began after the impeachment of former President Pedro Castillo in December, after he tried to dissolve Congress by decree in a power grab and form an emergency government. His vice president and former political ally, Dina Boluarte, took over, but Castillo's supporters, who see him as a champion of poor and indigenous Peruvians, stuck with him.
Peru is a divided country, racially, economically, geographically.
Eric Farnsworth, vice president of the Council of the Americas, says frustrations have expanded beyond the presidency. And the pandemic only exacerbated those divisions, especially in Peru, which had the highest per capita death rate from COVID in the world.
It showed people who could get things like vaccines, some people who could work from home versus a lot of people in the informal economy who didn't have that luxury. This turned into a general dissatisfaction protests in Peru against the government, against inequality, against unfairness.
Now, this unrest in Peru comes after big protests in Brazil, Bolivia, and elsewhere in South America, as trust in institutions, not only in the region but around the world, struggles to recover following the pandemic and economic downturn.
I mean, at least 50 killed. That's a big number. It's more than unrest. Could that kind of chaos, and local officials are saying possible anarchy, lead to migration out of Peru?
I think you're unlikely to see the kind of migrants we're seeing from Honduras and those kinds of countries come our way. The issue is internally displaced people. The issue is spillover into neighboring countries and just kind of a fall-on effect that's never good for any of these nations trying to uphold democracy.
Yeah, not getting a lot of attention here. That's why I'm glad we're telling you. This is a big story.
Yeah,
Thanks for giving us the time.
Yes.
Now, yesterday, again, I keep going back to this multiple revolutions at one time and the frightening effects or the frightening aftermath, which currently kind of sort of feels when I turn on the New York airwaves, it no longer has that very tasteful Adams 12 feel any longer. It now feels very distasteful. So I am leaning more towards, as far as a judgment or an opinion, that it looks like there's service disruption. So there's that. And yesterday, Lewis interviewed, he found a doctor, psychologist woman, whatever, the kind that has education, research facility, like integration, and then some form of study that they're allowed to do, which I guess gives them some like formality of like teeth or anchor grip. So she has, she was, they, he put together, and then he met a woman, or he introduced her to a woman who was part of some, I mean, on the interview, she was very explicit about the sex trade and about the like drugs and being born into this level of lifestyle. But now she's in this epiphanized recovery. But more important, with the component of alem, meaning like the beyond, whatever this world is, in like a spiritual, surreal way of realism. She tells the story, she uses words about the third dimension, the fifth dimension, and so on and so forth. And then being sent back, even though like she was in some form of an overdose. I was listening to it again. I listen to it respectfully, as I do on very few case by case pieces of all different kinds. I don't identify with it at all necessarily, because whatever on that. But I did hear about the fact that she remained as a small child when she crossed over. In my last hole in time and space, I call it 2015 because there's no date on the calendar. It was a spatial anomaly, like phenomenon that I don't know who has that capabilities, but whatever it was, when I got pulled into JMG, in that energy source meeting, I was my 36-year-old skinned self in the moment of where my body was supposed to be on Earth in 2015. And there was like a whole, I mean, again, there was portions of it called Solar City. I mean, so there's that went on. But like, I know, like I heard the drug addict, she spoke of that she had an option that she would be passed forward to another body, but it would be an infantile, and like a regression almost. I didn't have that. I'm just something different. I don't, like, I get the human portion of it, I get the integration of it, I get the charity aspect of it, I get that they're trying to, somebody on their larger scale project with devastation, they have to balance it out. There's a balance of that power between the good and the evil. I get all that. I mean, I understand it, but when what I call the world stands still and time doesn't exist, but you are still there in existence. It was a completely different set of circumstances. I passed through in a much more comfortable version of myself. At one point, I was where I was, which was 36. I called him Mark. And then there was like age regression into like a more protected airspace, which just, it was easier to hold. Like the dimensions weren't broken any longer. Like the aerospace, AERO space wasn't broken any longer. Like here, now I'm 44, but then I was 36. it's heavy on the shoulders. It's weighted down. It's so uncomfortable here. It's so disingenuous and so disintegratous, on top of the distasteful arrangement of multiple revolutions happening at like a lower governmental level and whatever, that then makes it hard to get back to integrity in airspace, because then people are thinking airplanes, and I'm like, no, it's aircraft, it's not airplanes. So again, like, then the words, unless you have the right people to speak to you, it's so frustrating. So anyhow, so there's that. And then this morning I found the church representative. He actually said something, well, one of the church representatives on the television only, Andrew Wommack. He had a piece on the gospel this morning, which I thought was, and it was E13. And today's Wednesday, 1/18/2023. I thought that he was really helpful with what he said. Very enlightening.
And they lose their hope for the future. And I don't believe that God put this on my heart for the people that didn't come. There are probably many of you in ministry who you are having things come at you, Now,
I don't know what this ministry is. I've heard, and I know it sounds ridiculous for those that practice and know what it means, but when you've been held in a series of rooms and you are grappling with so many different levels of humanity that know very well who they are and what their organizational structure is, and you have very really tried to find hands to hold and entry places, so at some point you could prove yourself and a ladder to be given so you could climb out of the depths of hell and closer towards heaven. It is like trying to speak a different language in, like, he even speaks about Bible something or other, Bible college. I'm like, again, those two words together, they paint a very pretty picture, but I don't know where or what it looks like. I'm already past that phase in my life. Like, they already left me and like missed me on that. Now what do I do? Like, I don't have time to, it's just like there's so much in this, so many revolutions all at one time at the speed of Mercury. Meanwhile, Earth's been spinning at Earth speed of like some time warp, where like they held back some of the children while they let others advance, which is really frightening.
this is getting to where in those verses in Matthew chapter 24, right in front of that, Jesus said, you will be hated of all men for my name's sake. And we in America have thought that that really doesn't apply to us.
No. My side of America, just so he's aware, let's give you a real live update on that, in case you were asking or wondering, being that you found your way to heaven and know what a Bible college is and can quote names and numbers with semicolons, and you really wholeheartedly know how to argue on behalf of others. And then there's me, who's been stuck in a series of rooms that seem to lead to nowhere. Although I have this like weird eclectic version of where we were, what the expectations were of the ancestors and the investments here in this area and under this United States of America flag, and then what's actually transpired within my mom and my life frame into my children's life frame. In like, it's messy. So I'm listening, and it's not a pretty picture up. That everybody's going to hate you. Since the day I arrived in New York City, inside the residence, the humans were all right. they were structured of some sort, a mother, a father, a grandfather, and then some aunts, and then some Irish side, some Italian side, and some differences, but no arguing. And then there was the outside world, where I met a bunch of different looks that did not look like the interior of my house, and whatever on that, and just then series of rooms where nothing's happened that I needed.
This is talking about, other countries. But I tell you what, it's happening here in the United States now. There are people being fired because they stand up and believe in biblical values. I just read a day or two ago about a woman who ran a pregnancy.
Now, which Bible? Because, again, I asked the woman on Sunday school, the highest educated woman I could find in the neighborhood, and she was raised Catholic, Greek, Orthodox. I'm like, if that's not an oxymoron, I don't know what it is. But here we are, and I believed her face value. I said, all right, you want to say you're a Catholic? Great, you're a Catholic. You want to say you're Greek Orthodox? Great, you were raised Greek Orthodox. What do you got? And so I'm like, what is this King James? What is that? Because then I see in sports world, they're trying to say it's a distasteful arrangement with some basketball player. And I'm like, now on whose order? I mean, this looks very like a problem. This looks like revolution and like staged overthrowing of what is here and was here. Is this what happens when you go from New Amsterdam to New York? Because, I mean, there's a very real difference of opinion and different territory manager to address correctly between an Amsterdam and a York. And then there's something called a World Bible. And in the World Bible, I realized Zion has some Armenian, or they want me to believe, the printed version in the local Zion church with this Michael that does not look like Michael, my Michael. Neither, I've had two Michaels in my entire life. And both of them did not look like the Michael that's holding the shepherd's staff, calling himself a curé, but a bishop of this church, of the Episcopalian. And then there's this, which is confusing because it was originally Zant and Bear. They were very much of African ancestry of a different kind. And so now they've got this Bible, they call it a World Bible, but it's an epidemiological, an epidermis confusing account of events. And I'm like, is this part of the false installation? Is this trustworthy biblical reference? Where on earth? I mean, I didn't go to Bible college. I don't even know if I really know. Well, actually, I met those two elders from the Book of Mormon, or the Mormon, but I'm like, where do you go for the actual truth in these books? And to verify that the information that they're pushing on one another is really real. And that they're not part of something that's trying to install some other form of government in the local area, to protect yourself and the children. And again, it has an Armenian Quarter reference. I met the Highway 1966 lookalike representative. He and I are on NFL camera at a national military holiday, the Veterans Day on 11/11, symbolic numbers for football and myself, and at Betty Joe from Petticoat Junction. And so we're there, and he very really looks a lot like the main character. And he introduced himself as the only Armenian I've ever met. So if he's my Armenian Quarter representative, I'm a little confused, since you're the lookalike from the TV show reference from before I got here. You're the only one that looks like the right representative and ancestor. And I'm at the gate of Zion trying to learn and keep safe and keep up to date. And I'm like, ay, what do I do?
Center, they wanted to go in and buy gift cards at Walmart to give to women who went ahead and had their children, and it would be a blessing to them. And she wanted to buy these Walmart gift cards. And when the manager of Walmart found out that she was a pregnancy center pro-lifer, he wouldn't sell to her. He says, we don't want your business. Did you know that this is happening in the United States of America? People are being persecuted, and it says it will be hated of all men for his namesake. So this isn't something that's...
And again, that meeting, that one football game where I met the one Armenian I've ever met, only person in my life ever introduced himself as such, that's on NFL camera, that I was present, and I put it up on Facebook, that I was there for that derby game between Jets and Giants. I was very Virgin Mary on that. That's just who I am. I have a really respectful father somewhere, and I need to make sure that I keep up my reputation. And so whatever, whole camera, if it was being watched or viewed, same way I was when I was in my Chase uniform and they brought me to the Rangers game at Madison Square Garden with a different person from, I don't remember where, but the RM Bob would know.
It's just someplace else. We're beginning to really be openly persecuted, and
I really feel like this book that keeps getting checked out of the library by people that I don't know but are doing something, and I'm not quite sure what.
Only people that it's popular to speak against are Christians. Speak against any other group, boy, they'll call you some kind of a bigot, but Christians are open game. So my point is, we have to start dealing with this. And how do you deal with the opposition? If Satan can get you focused on what you're dealing with right now and you lose your hope for the future, you lose that anchor for your soul and you begin to drift and float with every wind of doctrine and things that come against you. So hope is just absolutely essential. And I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand on this, but I want you to just ask yourself, is your hope strong? How do you feel about the future? Are you so focused on the present that you've forgotten the future, that you've forgotten some of the dreams that God's put in your heart? Man, you can't.
There has been no time for dreaming. There's been no ladder of hope even offered. There's been no planning even offered. There's been no information or any integration that leads to, it's been like purposely holding library and a book in Libre and then allowing it to be checked out every now and again by I don't know what to cover I don't know who. But it's really frustrating when I'm the book and I'm being like abused and burned. I mean, it's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.